I liked it too. It was just weird.
Good morning. Happy Friday. It's so nice to see you. We were just talking about weird things that we like. We'll be doing that throughout the show. It's Fan Friday. That's coming up in a moment. First, let's talk about some news. That's my this is serious.
Breaking.
Does that work? Is Gambit a rom-com? Question mark. This is via IGN, who spoke with Simon Kinberg, who basically, and first of all, let's just put an asterisk around Gambit, which they've been trying to crack for 6 years.
When you ask me, is Gambit a rom-com, I hear, is Gambit happening?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So let's just assume Gambit is happening as a first basis. And then here's what he said about it. When you look at Gambit, he's a hustler and a womanizer, and we just felt like there was an attitude, a swagger to him that lent itself to a romantic comedy. You know, when I say romantic comedy, I use that term loosely.
Thank you, Simon.
In the same way that I use the term Western for Logan loosely. It's not like they're gunslingers at high noon in Logan. It's just a vibe. And I would say the vibe of Gambit has a romantic or sex comedy vibe to it, while it's also still very much a superhero movie with villains and heroes, as all of those movies do.
What's a sex comedy?
American Pie or
American
Road Trip?
Pie, yeah.
Never heard that term.
It's sort of like
Porky's.
it's sort of like a animal. No, that's a different vibe. It's sort of like a romantic comedy, but super lewd.
With sex.
Lots of sex.
Huh.
Because in the romantic
band camp
comedy, sex
stories.
isn't a huge, you know what I mean, part of it.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough.
So it's like the R-rated romantic comedy.
It's like the hard, kind of. I mean, but then there's usually an element of buddies to it in a sex comedy. There's a friendship element to it.
Like Cock Blockers was a sex comedy.
Yeah.
That John Cena.
No, I saw it. I liked
No,
it.
it was called Cock Blockers, guys.
Yeah.
No, there was a picture of a caca.
Well, I'm glad we've unpacked the difference between a rom-com and a sex comedy. We'll walk through those tropes in just a few minutes. But I do want to talk about Gambit initially. Here's my questions for us. A, in terms of Gambit happening or not happening, it was Channing Tatum attached forever and they were trying to crack it. So A, is this happening? B, if it is happening, what do we think the idea of a romantic comedy superhero movie? If superhero movies are now being divided into genre specific, which largely they are, that's certainly been the Marvel model, I am not opposed if they do. I know you're going to yell at me. That's okay. I am not opposed if they do it really well to do a version of that. I think it could be interesting if it's really well done. Joe?
Yeah.
Well, who would be angry at that?
People that don't like rom-coms.
Well,
At first I was going to make fun of Simon Kinberg for deconstructing what he meant when he said it was going to be kind of a rom-com, and then qualifying it with I don't mean Logan had cowboys per se, but then I realized that it's the internet, and if you just say Gambit's a rom-com, there are so many legions of people that are going to scream at him for being you're just going to make Gambit like Sleepless in Seattle?
Right.
Hey, he's not even going to throw a card at somebody? So
you sounded just like Steve Zahn. That was uncanny.
You did, actually, yeah.
And now I don't think I can repeat it now. I don't.
No.
That was the one
That
time
was
Steve
a
Zahn came into my
unconscious
body,
impression,
spoke through
yeah.
me. Yeah. Yeah, I think this could be cool. I think there are other things that also naturally lend themselves to Gambit. A heist movie, a found footage, we're partying too hard in New Orleans movie, because that's where he lives.
What was that party?
Those are the
what
two.
was that found footage party movie that came out a couple of years ago?
Project X.
Yeah,
Thank
Project
you.
X.
Oh yeah, that was wild.
Didn't Todd Phillips direct that?
No way.
Yes.
Really?
I can't remember.
Huh.
But Project X, X-Men, Gambit's an X-Men. Someone probably wore a trench coat in that movie. He wears a trench coat. I think it's
connected the
totally
dots.
doable.
It was produced by Todd Phillips.
Produced. I knew I saw a name.
You
Todd
know,
Phillips.
you know how there's some characters you're super precious about, and people will describe it as being my, so it'd be not my Flash or whatever. I'm not precious about Gambit, so this sounds great to me. I'm sure there are some people out there who are well, my Gambit would never, or whatever it is, but this makes perfect sense and sounds fun, and why not?
Yeah.
Well, we were just talking about who that would be. I was getting a little Gambit history. So would the love interest be Rogue, Dan, or?
I don't know if honestly, I think number one, I think they've been making this movie for longer than I've been working at ScreenJunkies.
Yes.
So I take every piece of Gambit news with the salt shakers.
Charged with kinetic energy.
Yeah, a carton of salt. But
whole
this
carton.
approach, I don't know if they would pull in Rogue, only because I wonder how much they're going to build Gambit out, knowing that they may want to bring him in for new X-Men movies with a new management later. But this approach makes sense because, like, Gambit and Rogue, that whole relationship, like, that is a huge will they, won't they, and always for so long was flirtation and missed opportunities, and like that's the rom-com tropes.
Sure.
So I know some people maybe would be, I don't know, I don't think there'd be as much pushback against this approach as some people think, because that to me makes sense for the character. That's sort of the Gambit that was popularized in the 90s, was this sort of swaggering guy who, you know, particularly with Rogue, but I think you can broaden that in general. Plus, if you're going to use Channing Tatum, who knows at this point?
Yeah.
He lends itself to the
that plays to
rom-com.
his strengths.
I think
so.
Rogue makes sense. I think their will, they won't, they's been at least since 1991. They just got married this year in 2018. Congratulations.
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 Oh, that's beautiful.
Anyway,
I think you call that movie Gambit and Rogue. I think the other angle you can do is Belladonna, his wife, his original wife from the comics. He's in a thieving guild, and she's in a rival assassins guild. I think I'm saying that right. It's been a long time since I read that miniseries.
Yeah.
And so you can sort of do like a fun Romeo and Juliet.
I have so many
thing.
questions about a thieving guild, but just please go ahead.
A whole
feel you
guild
on
of
that.
thieves. But there's sort of like a Romeo and Juliet vibe to that, star-crossed lovers, and you can make that sort of fun and charming. I think this is a cool vibe for a movie that is definitely never going to get made.
Yeah, I mean, I think as I sit here and imagine this movie, I really like it. And so that's good enough. Thank you, Simon. You've done your work. Let's get on to fan questions. Do we have that graphic? That fun? There we go.
ooh, fan questions. Yeah,
That's
Did
your
he shoot
voice.
that?
I know.
Nailed it. All right. Sam asks, I actually work at the Goldbergs, which we've been talking about. So when Robert Englund came in, full
Sorry, I'm
Freddie...
so mean to your show, Sam.
I think we were fair. We hadn't seen it. So when Robert Englund came in, Freddie makeup, I had a quasi-heart attack of fear and delight. In that vein, what retired movie character would you want to see the original actor reprise for one last time? First of all, thank you, Sam. And I just want to say the couple of episodes of The Goldbergs that I have seen, I quite enjoyed. Okay, good. Now that
How's it sound from under the bus, Joe?
Like the 80s.
Hollow.
You know who did this really well was Bruce Campbell with Ash.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
show should have been, I really think that show should have been like a cash grab garbage show, like on paper.
Yeah.
And it was really, really good. And it was actually a really cool exploration of that character. And so that was really fun. I'd love to see old man Jack Burton.
Oh, why would you do that to me? Why would
Kurt
you
Russell
even put it in my
starts up the
head?
truck one more time. I'd watch that movie.
Oh my God. Do you guys know how I feel about Kurt Russell? I'm not sure if I've
Yes.
mentioned this ever. Have
I just felt we were a
mentioned
little
this?
too on the rails, so I just
Yeah.
wanted to do this to you.
Oh,
Are you
can't
gonna
top
fist
that.
fight like Gotti?
Oh.
Ah!
You watched it?
I love Kurt Russell. He is
Fantastic.
one of the greatest creations of these United States. I think we can all agree. I would love to see that. How about you?
I don't know, movie-wise. The one that I always have been pushing for that's never going to happen TV-wise, though, is getting all of the Friends characters back. Like, that's what I die for and live for and wait for. But they all say no to me. So, and to the rest of the world. But that's the one that, like, my whole heart goes into.
I could see that happening like one last time eventually. Like, not soon, because...
Don't you just want to know? Like, what happened? Where are you guys?
I feel like I can fill in those blanks, but I want it to happen for you.
Dan doesn't care about it happening for me at all.
What? No, I'm sorry. I was thinking.
So that would be my TV one. I have to think more about the movie one.
Dan, what would you like to see?
Well, this would be like a weird Alternaverse story. Like this would be like a Doctor Who type thing. But
Okay.
I would love to see. Unfortunately, they're not all around anymore. But a James Bond movie that has all of the James Bonds in it. Like you establish that it is this kind of guild of assassins, and you bring them in. Like, I don't, continuity-wise, I don't know how you do it. Like, I'm a James Bond fan. Unfortunately, Roger Moore's not with us anymore, which sucks because he played the role more than anybody else as far as number of times. So that may have passed, but in my head, like, I think that would be really cool.
CGI?
Maybe. I don't know. I'd like to see old man Michael Keaton Batman.
Yes.
Like
That'd
a
be
Dark
great.
Knight Returns type story,
He
but
kind
not
of
an
did
adaptation.
that, though.
Well, he did Birdman.
He did old man Michael Keaton
Playing
old man Batman.
Right. I mean, like,
That
go
kinda
back
counts.
to Tim Burton Gotham City.
Yeah.
30 years later, what has that Gotham City become? Again, that's like an alternate verse, Elseworld type thing.
Yeah.
I think that would be cool. I'm trying to think of anything else. I wish the three guys from Jaws were still, unfortunately Richard Dreyfuss is the only one left. Robert Shaw and Roy Scheider, but get one shark hunting.
One last go at that shark.
Let's go with that shark. I don't know. I kind of like things that they're
Would
doing
you
now.
really want that, Dan? That surprises me.
I don't know. If it was done well.
Yeah.
If it was done well, I wouldn't want it to be some
Exactly.
cheap knockoff. But I kind of like what they're doing in the vein of the Halloweens. I haven't seen it. I've heard it's good. But I like that there are people with franchises that are sort of saying, like, hey, I know that we've gone through all these iterations and stuff, but we're going to kind of construct a world where here's the canon and we're going to pick up the story from here and see what happens. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I like that that's where they're going instead of just like endless sequels.
Yeah.
Stretching
Now
and not
he's the
having to
devil,
reboot
yeah.
it either. They're not doing another Michael Myers origin story. They're doing. We're just going to pick up from the first one.
I cannot wait to see that one. Have to write an email. This is the second or third time we've said the words Assassin's Guild on this show, and it's getting a little too close to breaking our cover, so zip it!
What's yours?
What's mine? He said mine, and he knew he did that.
Oh.
He knew he did
I
that.
know I did that.
What's mine what?
I'll give
I'll
I'll
take
give you my
Snake.
real one, Old Man
I'll take-
Willow.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to see Willow revisited, and that little baby is grown up, and she's the queen, and he's like her old wizard friend, and he has to protect her, and I like that movie.
Yeah. You know what? Let's talk about Willow for a minute, guys.
Sure.
This is one of these movies, I think, that is a classic high fantasy movie that some people want to try and tell you is bad, you just love it. You're wrong. That movie is brilliant on every conceivable level.
Val Kilmer's awesome in that
He's
movie.
so good.
Matt Morgan's a great character.
I love that we spend 90% of our time on the show always being like, nobody's opinions are wrong. And then anytime one of us gets super passionate about something, it's like, except for yours if you go against this one thing.
Don't you dare cross Willow.
Don't you dare.
We're gonna die on Willow Hill.
Yeah.
On this show, really?
It's a hill that we're willing to die on.
That's our hill. It's
fine.
Okay, Hillo.
The Hillo. Consult the bones.
You mentioned Halloween. Brandy wants to know, what are your must-watch Halloween movies? I have such a sadly basic answer to that. And because I watch a lot, my boyfriend and I, he watches a ton of horror movies, so I watch a fair amount too. But honestly, it's so sad, but it's Halloween. I love that movie. I really, really do. And I think it's one of those films that's like, you guys, I don't know how you even tackle a movie like that for an honest trailer, because to me, it's like there's some things, or not, or ever. Like, I just don't know how you would.
If we were going to do
If you were
one.
going to ever, which I don't know that you are. I'm
And there's 10 of them to choose from.
I'm bringing
so.
that up as an example of something that would be really difficult.
That would be a very
Because-
big challenge.
That I tackle as soon as we go off the air.
Because I think it is just it's so perfectly balanced, and it's so well constructed.
Billy doesn't flinch, so we're fine.
and it just sort of like gave birth to all these different tropes that we've seen again and again and again. I guess maybe, I don't know, that's how you talk. Joe?
What do you got? What do you
I
like to
just,
watch?
I just don't want to give any jokes away for the ideas that you're constructing right now. They're just being saved for something.
Just kicking things around.
Just kicking things around. My must watch Halloween movie is Behind the Mask. Have you guys seen this? You guys
No.
heard of this?
I've heard of it.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Okay, so Behind the Mask is this really fun. It starts out
Is it
as
scripted?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it starts out as a documentary where this college documentary crew is following around this guy who, in this world, like slashers are all real, and this guy wants to be like the next big one, and this has been his sort of his drive for his whole life. So they're like spending a year or whatever on the road with him, sort of like learning the ins and outs. It's very, very meta. I think the guy that I think Robert Englund's in it and plays like his mentor. So he's like checking in every now and then, and so they do the tropes and everything of like how you walk, how you do appear to be just moving very slowly as people run away from you, but they never seem to be able to catch up and stuff like that, and break down like why all the tropes work and why it works best when they run up the stairs and blah blah blah. It's a really, really funny movie. The guy that plays the lead is great. He's just sort of weird and twisted. They do a really good job of balancing the movie because it shouldn't be funny. This guy who's like, it's my life dream to be an actual like slashing serial killer. But the movie does a really job balancing it and keeping it really funny, and like him building up his own lore and stuff like that, because that's very important, and like picking out his survival girl, because that's really important. It's really fun.
Final Girl.
Final Girl, thank you.
Yeah, which is that's the Jamie Lee Curtis, like, that's cool. How do I not?
I don't know it.
I think it went like
He could have
pretty
just
under
made
the
it up
grid.
and we didn't
When
know.
was this? Like, wait.
2008, maybe? I'll
Billy
have to
can
look it
tell
up.
us.
I'm shocked I haven't heard of that. I'm very excited to watch it now.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
fun. It's a fun one.
I've got a few.
Yeah.
Hocus Pocus.
Sure.
Tried and true to it. I love it. This is a weird one.
Did you ever see The Best Witch with Fairuza Balk? I invite you into that experience. I
Yay,
think you
thank
will
you.
enjoy it there.
Halloween Town.
The Worst Witch, sorry.
Okay, The Worst Witch. She's bad. The Disney movie, the Halloween Town movies that are like epic and amazing and awful also, and I love them. And then Nightmare Before Christmas. I watch it at Halloween time, and I know that that's an unpopular thing to do.
Why?
Because people watch it at Christmas time, but it's a Halloween movie.
No, we're watching it, Halloween people.
Yeah,
Okay.
You're not alone.
We are
Okay.
too.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
You're
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And that's what always happens when I bring it up. But I get that.
It's kind of perfect because I think it applies like across the season.
You got to watch it late into the Halloween season, and then it gets you prepared for the Christmas season. But it is a Halloween movie.
Do you watch it at that point in October where the Christmas stuff starts going up at Target? Is that the
That's
perfect time?
October
perfect
7th?
time.
October
Yeah.
7th.
So today, yeah.
to watch Nightmare Before
Pretty
Christmas.
much.
I agree with you. That's a great movie on, especially like, or if you don't really like scary movies, there's a whole array of possibilities for you. Like Gremlins is a delight.
Yes, I like
which
the
is also a
non-conventional
Christmas movie in my
choices. The Gremlins, yeah, it's a Christmas movie. I go between not highbrow, but I go between like classic stuff like The Exorcist and Halloween. The original Halloween is like for Halloween night. That's your must-watch, I think. But I also like the cheesy sequels to genres. So I like even the worst Nightmare on Elm Street sequels. I enjoy just because I think that they're still weird and stupid and creative. Not so much the Friday the 13th sequels. Some of those are a bit of a drag.
I've seen
you have to sludge
literally
through a lot of
every
those.
single one.
But and Mara and
Even
I do
Jason
like
Takes Manhattan.
Oh my God, Jason rides on a boat and then has 3 shots in Times
Jason
Square.
Jason X.
Well, Jason X, that comes back around. But we do like 31 Days of Halloween, and she knows horror way more than I do. So she introduces me to a lot of stuff that I haven't seen, and so like I've been watching the Sinister movies, which I thought aren't bad, and the first 2 Insidious, which I didn't think were so bad. There's one that we haven't watched and that I haven't seen in a while, but is actually sort of, if you're into a slow burn, something that's not a big jump scare movie, but is super, super creepy. There's a movie called The Changeling with George C. Scott, where he has, I believe it's his son, has passed away, and he's basically alone in this creepy old house, and it just weird things start happening, and it's a super slow burn, but if you like that kind of thing, I would recommend that.
You know what I think we're going to do based on this conversation and a text? I was talking to my brother in the car on the way to work, and he was like, I just saw Hereditary and it was pretty good. It's a slow burn. And I suggested, go watch our review. Thanks for the click, Jason. But he was asking for additional recommendations of horror movies, but like subcategorized if you're in the mood for. So we should let's do that in the next couple of weeks nearing Halloween.
cool.
Let's do a recommend.
You want a slow
But
burn?
only horror
like-
or Halloween movies?
Like horror movies. Like if you're in the mood for a slow burn, that's like Rosemary's Baby. If you're in the mood for one that's more zany and wacky, like a Friday the 13th, like we could just do it like
that's
that.
fun.
Yeah.
I love
I
that.
consider the Final Destination series to be horror movies as well, and I love watching.
Final Destination 5 is so fun. It is so fun. No, it really is. It's one of those things where it's like the franchise went to the toilet and then like this fifth one comes out and it's so great. And it's
It's the ones like that because they're like no one's paying attention
yeah,
anymore.
exactly.
Right.
That's what I'm hoping is going to happen with Bumblebee.
Yeah, me too. I hope so.
That's what I think.
Is any movie with a Halloween scene in it count as a Halloween movie? Like, is Mean Girls a Halloween movie?
No, E.T.'s not a Halloween movie,
Yeah.
and it takes place.
You don't think E.T.'s a Halloween movie?
No.
I think that's a great Halloween movie.
You know, it is a great Halloween movie, The Craft.
Yes.
Maybe one of the greatest movies ever made.
You guys, after the show, let's call the Four Corners.
Okay.
Julian wants to know, hey, Screen Junkies, huge fan, and here I want to ask you guys if you could watch one movie franchise for the rest of your life. Oh gosh,
Oh,
I
boy.
started saying it and then it was going to be hard. Which one could you pick? I love you guys. You guys get me through the tough times.
thank you,
Julian.
Julian.
First of all,
Yes.
thank you. That's a very kind thing to say, and I think probably makes all of our weeks to
Yeah.
hear that. So I hope you're having good times right now. And I'm going to punt this to Dan because I'm not prepared to answer.
I mean, would it be
ready.
things that have only currently exist, or would it be things that, like, you know,
Could exist in
For the
the
sake
I
of
think you
Mars
could
in the
watch for the
future.
future, the whole
Exactly.
franchise, whenever it comes out, whatever's
Right.
happened.
For the
then
sake
I
of
would-
chatting, you can say that.
I would pick something that like, not because I'm a Marvel junkie, but just because they make the most kinds of movies.
Yeah.
I would pick like the MCU because it seems like there's no, it seems like it's
Stopping
gonna
it.
keep going, and they do different movies in different genres. And if like I'm forced to sit and watch only one franchise forever, I'll pick the one that seems to be the most kind of varied within itself. But man, if it's stuff that's already been made, I like. I can only watch one for the rest of my life.
Did you do Bond? Because they kind of repeat each other. It's repetitive a little bit.
And the hit miss ratio is not. I'm a huge James Bond fan, but the hit miss ratio with that franchise is like it's not 50-50, but it's like it's close.
Yeah.
And there's
So-
not a lot of there's a little bit of variety, but not a lot of variety. Like if you're picking Marvel, then you've got at least like the rom-coms versus the action. When you're picking Bond, it's a little more narrow.
It's
Yeah.
true, and there's like, to your point, there's more movies in it because it's like what you know what I mean. You're not going to pick The Godfather and have two movies to watch for
Right.
the rest of your life.
Do you not acknowledge the third one?
I do not. It does not exist.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Do you not acknowledge it? No.
We do not speak of this.
I think mine would have to be Star Wars though, because
Ooh, that'll keep going for quite a while.
it will keep going, and also every time, no matter how many times I've seen 4, 5, and 6, I get something different every time, and like just those 3, and I like the prequels, so I'm a little more set. And then with I just lost so much respect out there. Sorry, guys. And then
I can never disrespect you.
as they go forward, I feel like
think the
that's
appeal of
it's
Captain
a
Panaka.
sure. And then also, if we're talking franchises, because then I get to watch some TV stuff too that's going to be coming out and cool. So I think I go Star Wars.
These are very beautifully calculated answers.
Thinking
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
No one has supplied me with a fantasy genre franchise that can span ground the way that Star Wars does. I was trying to crank through fantasy franchises in my head, and was just kind of like, they're pretty contained. Like even Lord of the Rings is pretty like, we're this thing, and Conan is like, I'm this thing, and How to Train Your Dragon is like, nope, it's just about dragons, and there's not a whole lot of world outside of that. So yeah, I gotta go Star Wars too. I like Star Wars a lot, you guys. And Roxy's right. There's shows, so I get to cheat a little bit.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'll watch a prequel. I'll watch a prequel.
So I think these are all really good choices. Star Wars is a great choice. I'm surprised you didn't do Trek because there's like 3 different series available and potentially more.
Again, it goes to
hit and miss.
hit and miss.
Yeah.
It really does, because Star Trek 2 is great. Star Trek 4 is great. Star Trek Motion Picture is a drag. Star Trek Nemesis is not good.
you get the
Star Trek
shows, too.
Insurrection.
This does say movie franchise.
If it's
I
movie,
just
it's a movie
changed.
franchise.
I see.
I just
If it's
Okay, it's just
shows,
movies.
You made the
if it's
rules.
just
Yeah.
movies, yeah.
I'm playing by my own rules.
If it's just movies, okay.
Star Trek Generations
So
is a
if
joy and a
it's
delight.
if it's just movies,
Yes, I like that.
I do too.
yeah. Occam's razor is sometimes like I miss it, the most obvious answer during these chats, but I've come back around and there is only one answer for me because I really do watch this endlessly right now and could at any given moment put one of these movies on and be in an infinitely better mood, and that's Harry Potter, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, yeah.
Like that is my franchise. It's my
Interesting.
I love when you think about the thing that like is your number one. Like I really do. I grew up on Star Wars. It defined a lot of my personality, but they're my number one thing that makes me just happy is Harry Potter. So that's what I would do.
What if I was like, before sunrise, you guys? Just those. Forever,
Later
man.
before trilogy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
later before trilogy, and that's it.
The last one's sort of depressing,
Yes,
right? Did
Yeah.
you watch it?
it's very sad.
Yeah. Ugh.
I
I
thought
mean,
you
it's
meant the last
very
question.
real. But it's very sad. No, it was like before. So it was before sunrise, before sunset, just about noon, I think, is coming out. What was the third one?
Before midnight.
Before
Thank you.
midnight.
I get all three of them confused in their order.
Let's see. This is an interesting one. This sort of speaks to what we were talking about the other day. Eric asks, what's a bad movie that students should watch and learn from?
Ooh.
film students.
Bad, a pointed Godfather 3. God damn it. We don't speak of this, and
What
it
are the
doesn't.
lessons?
It doesn't really exist. A lot, actually. So if you look at but you have to watch the first two movies, and really understand what makes them great. But this contrast will maybe help illuminate why the first two work. Pieces of it are casting. In that it was not supposed to be Sofia Coppola that played that role. It was supposed to be Winona Ryder. And she kind of had a breakdown and wasn't able to do it. She dropped out. So at the last minute, they put Sofia Coppola in that role. And so it meant that at a pivotal emotional moments and points in the movie that should have affected you as an audience, they didn't. And she's a great director. I love her as a director, but she's not a good actress. And it really helped to kill the film. Secondarily, you just hired the hot actor of the time and made him a central character in this. When this really had been the story of Michael Corleone and the Corleone family, it sort of got away from itself in terms of what it was about the Godfather story that meant anything to us. And then add to that, you found Al Pacino at this point in his life where he is so restrained. His acting is so restrained in The Godfather, the first one. And then by the time you meet him in Godfather 3, it's like Carlito's Way on all of the cocaine that was on the desk. Not Carlito's Way. Scarface on all of the cocaine.
So what do you think are the big lessons, Roth? What should they take away from it? What
I'm
should
telling them right now.
This is what they should take away. Should they know that they need to be better, make stronger decisions, or?
Well, I mean, I think it's a matter of if you and those are some of my opinions, just a few of why it doesn't work. You can start to look at why a movie, even with the best intentions, falls apart. How much of a movie rests on the performances and the casting. Almost everything is in it sometimes. And then also when it's time, do you really have a story that's strong enough to return to this franchise? Are you repeating things, or are you getting too far afield from what worked about these two movies? Or are you just return to it for its own sake? Or is there something there to explore that's deeper and different about this family and their trajectory? Why are you making this movie?
I have an unpopular opinion on Godfather 3.
You
Oh God, don't kill me right now.
I think that The Godfather 3 is a perfectly
Fine movie.
fine, average movie that committed the sin of not being, as its former two were, one of the best movies of all time. I think it came in with
Can
an
we go to a wide shot? Is there any wide shot? I'm going to show you why The Godfather 3 is awful. The climax of this movie is a death scene, and I'm going to do it for us right now. I don't think we can do it. Billy's not even listening. Okay.
Anyway.
Wait,
that's
well, where
my
is it?
opinion
I
on
was
Godfather.
gearing
see
up
it.
for it.
I have
Where's
to
the-
fall on the floor.
Maybe
No.
We have a
maybe-
mat.
I am picturing it though.
Maybe it's because I grew up hearing how much of a shit pile it was, and then when I watched it, I was just like, I mean, it's definitely nowhere near as good as the first two, but I've always thought like it's okay. It's not great, but it's okay. That's my opinion. I know a lot of people don't share that opinion. That's how I've always felt about
I get what
Godfather
you're saying.
3.
I think the other thing too is that I'm so sorry that we've gone on this Godfather diatribe.
That's okay. We've decided it doesn't exist, but if it did exist,
Well,
this.
I think that I loved The Godfather. I loved them so much. Like, I really was such a weirdo as a teenager. I watched those movies almost every weekend for like a period of a year. And so The Godfather 3 to me is such a wild disappointment. It's just so profoundly disappointing. And I just didn't understand. It felt like so ill-conceived to just make it. Like, why are you making this? You know what I mean? Are you trying to recapture something? Are you trying to like make like, what is the point of this?
For me, I think if you look at Michael's story, that's where the appeal to that is. This idea of a guy who he started the first movie as saying, in 10 years, this family's going to be completely legitimate.
Yeah.
And here he is, 30 years later, and
he
he's
can't.
finally at the cusp of
every
it.
time they're trying to
And
get out.
he can't. Literally,
Pulling
the
me
past
back in.
comes back to haunt him, and he gets pulled back in. I don't know. I've always thought that I agree. It's not perfect, and Sofia Coppola is definitely not a strong point of the movie. But I've always felt like it was a perfectly okay movie that people. It was not. It was good.
But the whole point should have been like the whole point of The Godfather and why Vito started the crime family in the first place was for his family, it's for his kids. Like he literally just wanted not more than anything else in the world. First of all, he wanted power, he wanted strength, but he wanted the ability to take care of his family. Like it's about family, not unlike the Fast and the Furious. And so at the end of this movie, when his daughter dies, like the whole point of everything the Corleones have, spoilers, I don't care. The whole point of what the Corleones have done is like completely undercut by this terrible, terrible performance. You know, that's just one of the problems with it. Okay, let's move on from the Corleones.
What about the part where they roll pasta together?
I feel bad. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't even have brought up the movie, and I've gone on a tangent, and it's just, the show's not fun. Joe, just fix it.
We're talking about movies. That's what the show's about. What do you mean the show's
This wasn't one of those times where we ended up talking about like farts and the silence.
Yeah.
Like you were doing your job. You're
Yeah,
right.
you were doing the
No,
thing.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to the two of you, and I'm
No,
sorry.
we were having fun.
I'm
We were having
sorry.
fun.
Hey,
I just-
don't apologize.
When the actual film criticism starts happening, I'm just like, I tap out here. And
Joe, this is what I
can
feel like
see-
when
I
we
can
talk
see the
about
Florida
Optimus
these two.
Prime for 15 minutes. I'm over here.
Or
Speaking of,
Westworld,
like-
yeah.
Or Westworld.
I haven't seen it recently enough to have an opinion on the third one.
Yeah.
I feel about The Godfather the way that you do about like Jurassic.
Here's,
so like the bad
Ooh,
sequels offend me to
Okay.
that same degree.
Here's here's the positive about the rant that just happened. I just now thought of my movie. So it
There we
took-
go.
It took
what'd you
that
get?
amount of
You had
time.
a full 10 minutes.
It took a full 10
is
minutes.
it?
Batman and Robin, and I'll explain why.
Okay.
I think
That hurts my heart.
I think that Batman and Robin is a really strong lesson in intention and achieving that intention, because I think hokey Batman works. The Adam West Show is a great show, and if you can do a really fun, Lego Batman is a very tongue-in-cheek, hokey, silly Batman movie, and you can do a really silly, corny, entertaining B-movie, tongue-in-cheek Batman movie, like what I think Batman and Robin wanted to be. It just didn't pull it off. It didn't. I think it was at odds with what it actually wanted to be. Sometimes it wanted to be still like a cool Batman action movie, and then it also wanted to recapture the sort of jokey Adam West. And as Mr. Miyagi said,
Wax on, wax off.
well, walk on left, walk on left, safe, walk on right, safe, walk in the middle, squash like grape. And it just kind of tried to middle the road, so it didn't succeed as either.
With so much potential.
Yeah, they're really. I think like Batman and Robin is like 3 drafts, like script drafts away from being like a really funny like Adam West movie starring George Clooney. Was it going to be The Dark Knight or Batman Returns or the Batman 89? No, absolutely not. But I think it's a really good lesson in getting your tone across and getting what you want your movie to be across.
I think that that's a strong pick, but to segue into mine, if that's okay, unless somebody has to respond. You want to respond to that?
Here's the thing about the pasta in Godfather 3. They're cousins.
God.
Mm-hmm.
They're
So
no, I want you to talk.
And I like both. I like the picks that are going on right now, but I think that if you're a film student, probably for your first few films, you're not going to be working on something that has that much source material, or that has a couple films before it, or that has 150 years of books about it. So I feel like you just need to pick a crappy movie, like just a movie that sucks, and then you can break down why it didn't work. And for me, I go back to this movie all the time, but A Million Ways to Die in the West. I think that movie is really, really bad, and you can pinpoint like 16 reasons why it didn't work, and why the jokes don't land, and why it doesn't matter if you have the most star-studded cast in the world. If the script isn't there, the script isn't there. So like, that's the one for me that you can really break down and be like, this is why scene by scene this film does not work and is not funny.
Yeah, that's great. That makes a ton of sense. I think you're right.
The difference in that movie between an actor playing the part and the actor who knows that the script he's reading is very funny because he wrote it and it's his baby is night and day.
Yeah. Great point.
What would be the version of that, or like, is there a version of that you think is really great? Like a comedy that's sort of in that parody vein that you think is awesome that they should look at, like, this one got it right.
I have to think about it.
It's challenging because
definitely, but I can't think of it right now.
It's challenging because that movie tried to be. It tried to lean towards Blazing Saddles in the sense that it had a point A to point B story, but then it also tried to be an episode of Family Guy that just kept pointing at itself and having cut to scenes and stuff like that.
Blazing Saddles would obviously be a great example, but I don't know if that's exactly what they were trying to do, but it's a great film.
But you can do, if you're going to lean the more like clear parody, this is ridiculous way, you get a Leslie Nielsen. Like who is your Leslie Nielsen for your Western? You get someone who's going to play it straight and sort of like let the jokes speak for themselves.
Today?
I guess it's who could have done it well.
I think it could have been Charlize. It just wasn't.
Yeah, it could have just been Charlize Theron.
But she just didn't.
Which could have also been an interesting sort of modern spin on Blazing Saddles in a way too. A lady sheriff. It could have been Pratt. Pratt probably could have done it. He's basically doing that as Star-Lord.
Let us know who you think today's Leslie Nielsen is in the comments below. I think that's great, Roxy.
Thanks.
Everyone, great offerings there. And I have sufficiently contradicted myself by saying The Godfather 3 doesn't exist, but if it did, you should watch it.
Hatefully.
But only with hate in your heart.
As we do all great things.
Let's say something loving for the end of the day. What are you going to do this weekend? What are you looking forward to?
I go to the movies. I always love catching whatever's out. There's some good indies out this weekend. There's some good couple of wider releases that I need to catch up on. So that's what I love to do. I love catching up on movies on the weekend, relaxing, play a little Spider-Man.
Oh yeah,
we have a good time.
Maybe do some Legos.
Yes, actually, we have 2 Legos that we have not done that we bought a couple weeks ago. Little mini sets, not the big ones, so they're actually doable.
Good weekend project, yeah.
Yeah, one of them is the Harry Potter Quidditch. It's a little Harry Potter Quidditch.
Did you invite Roth over for that or not? Because otherwise it's rude.
It's a good thing. And then I don't remember the other one. I think it's a Star Wars thing.
Sweet.
What are you doing, Roxy?
Same movies. I think I'm going to see Beautiful Boy tonight, which is supposed to be good. And then I think I'm going to go tomorrow night. There's a one-night only animated Transformers movie showing. So.
Is it at Joe's house?
And it is at Joe's house. I wasn't going to tell
daily
everybody.
At my house.
So
welcome to
movies.
my house.
So the one from 1984?
Yeah.
Joe, do you have any feelings about that?
I do. I'm sad I'm going to miss it. But this weekend, I'm going to get on a plane and drive back to Birmingham, Alabama. In a plane. I'm going to drive there. I'm going to Alabama.
Sweet.
right.
Sweet.
I actually have a working
Alabama.
weekend ahead of me.
Fun.
I have like 15 hours of work to do this weekend.
Well, you also owe
Really?
us a video essay on
wow.
Godfather 3 now, so
Yeah.
Oh my God.
enjoy that.
I want to formally apologize to you, Roxy, you, Joe, you, Billy,
Why
and
are you
everyone about
I don't
apologizing?
apologize to anyone for that discussion of The Godfather
Yeah,
3. I
me
think it's
neither.
productive to have those kind of
Joe and I made up a handshake during that time. It was pretty bomb. So
sweet.
just saying.
I'm sorry that it did not engage Joe and Roxy.
I
but
know I did. I like listening to it in the
I
background.
just tap out when the experts are talking. I'm like,
I have no chill about The Godfather 3.
We all have our no chills.
It's my no chill zone. You should watch the ScreenJunkies show fall movie preview on the main channel later today. That's
Yes.
going to be awesome.
Scott Mance, Joelle Monique, and Sasha Pearl Raver are giving you everything you need to
Cool.
Squad of
know
people.
about the upcoming movie
So
season.
they're going over what fall movies to watch and what's
you
coming
know,
out.
covering some of the big ones, and then
Awesome.
what I like is that they each one of them got to pick a few that they were excited about. So it's some stuff that I think that's the real fun of it is, you know, we'll talk about Venom and all the other stuff coming out, but also they each got to talk about a few things that maybe you haven't heard of.
Cool.
That's also coming out. So I
excited.
think it's a fun show. I'd highly recommend.
Exciting.
And I
There's
don't
that.
recommend everything that we do. That's not true.
We also have a review for the Bad Times at the El Royale coming out
yeah.
later today. So there's a night school review available for you right now, so you can look at some of the things that you should or maybe should not be watching that are available in theaters. And we will be back on Monday with many more things. I will have watched The Godfather 3 and be very angry. No, I'll be nice.